The arc horizon floated against the stars like a silent predator, its steel-gray hull reflecting the light of the nearby nebula. From its bridge, Captain Eric Voss watched the transmission from the mining colony of Selker 3. The footage was grainy, but the chaos was unmistakable. Explosions tearing through docking bays, Tsarek raiders storming through with brutal efficiency, and colonists scrambling to escape. Casualties? Eric asked, his voice low but steady. Commander Delane, his second-in-command, tapped on the hollow console. 73 confirmed dead. More missing. The Tsarek didn't take prisoners. They executed everyone resisting. We found their symbol carved into the station walls. It's deliberate, Captain. Eric's jaw tightened. He didn't show emotion often, but his eyes darkened as he absorbed the report. They're testing us, he said. Karin's pushing to see how far he can go before the Union snaps. Delane hesitated. The Council's already convening an emergency session. Orders from Terran Command, diplomatic first response, were to show restraint. Eric turned from the viewport, his gaze hard. Restraint is a luxury we can't afford if they see it as weakness. He paused, scanning the faces of his bridge crew. Prepare the horizon for immediate departure. We'll attend the Council, but we're going to make our presence impossible to ignore. The diplomatic decks of the Arc Horizon were a stark contrast to its military core. Polished black corridors with faint gold trim led to a reception hall designed to impress alien dignitaries. Eric walked through it now, the echo of his boots following him. He wasn't here to impress anyone. As he entered the hollow conference room, the Council's first communication blinked to life. 12 alien faces appeared in floating projections, each distinct, feathered, scaled, or crystalline. At the center was Elder Vare, a being of liquid silver whose form rippled with every word. Captain Voss, Vare said, their voice soft but commanding. We have received reports of aggression. The Tsarek Dominion denies involvement. They claim your colony provoked the conflict. Eric's eyes narrowed. Selker 3 was a civilian mining outpost. No weapons, no defenses strong enough to provoke anything. This was a massacre, and you know it. A chittering voice from another delegate broke in. The Tsarek claim that humans exaggerate. You use fear as your shield. Eric leaned forward slightly, his tone measured but cutting. Fear? No. We use facts. I'll provide the recordings. Watch them, and tell me what's exaggerated. If we wanted fear, you'd remember what we did during the Orion War. The chamber went silent at that. Even over a hollow link, the name of that war carried weight. Entire fleets had vanished. An empire had been burned to ash because it thought humans were fragile prey. Enough, Vare said softly. The Council demands a formal assembly. Bring your evidence. Captain, we urge diplomacy. The alternative? They didn't finish the sentence. They didn't need to. Present moment. The Council chamber was colder than Eric expected, its air heavy with the scent of mineral dust and alien ozone. He stood beneath the weight of 100 alien eyes. Behind him, a single Terran ensign carried a data slate containing the Selker 3 recordings. Karin rose from his seat, towering over the table. His scaled armor creaked as he moved, the jagged markings across his chest plate glinting under the pale lights. You've grown complacent, human, the warlord said, his tone dripping with disdain. Your kind hides behind threats and legends. You think the stars belong to you. Eric didn't answer at first. He stepped forward, placed the data slate on the table, and activated the projection. The chamber filled with screams and the brutal footage of Selker 3's destruction. Smoke, fire, Tsarek warriors cutting through unarmed civilians. This, Eric said, his voice low but fierce, is not provocation. This is slaughter, and you call us arrogant. Some of the council members averted their eyes. Others whispered among themselves. But Curran leaned in, his slit pupils narrowing. You think your stories of past wars frighten me? No, Eric replied. I don't care if you're frightened. I care that you understand what you've started. The tension in the room was a living thing, pressing on every breath. Eric met Karin's glare, without blinking. In that silence, a truth settled in the minds of everyone present. If the Tsarek continued, the humans would respond, and history showed what that meant. As the session adjourned, Elder Vayer's voice reached Eric in private. "You are dangerously close to war, Captain. If you retaliate, there will be no stopping the escalation." Eric's gaze didn't waver. "If they want to see the Predator in humanity, I'll show them." He walked back toward the arc horizon, the weight of inevitable conflict in every step. The arc horizon descended into the orbit of Carvel, the seat of the Galactic Council. The planet was a jewel wrapped in storms, its surface a mix of luminous cities and ancient ruins carved into sprawling rings that circled the equator like silver scars. From the bridge, Captain Eric Voss studied the site without awe. He had been here before. Carvel's grandeur was a mask for the web of politics and fragile truces woven beneath its surface. "Docking clearance granted," reported Lieutenant Ray. "Council security has authorized a landing corridor." "Understood," Eric said, his voice calm. "Commander Delane, you have the ship until my return. Keep the defense grid primed. If anyone tries anything, I want our presence felt." Delane gave a sharp nod. "Diplomacy with teeth, as usual." Eric almost smiled. "It's the only kind that works." The shuttle ride down was silent, the hum of engines the only sound. Eric's mind ran through fragments of intelligence gathered on the Tsaric Dominion. They were expanding aggressively, their fleets pressing into neutral zones. Karin's raid on Selker. 3 hadn't been an isolated strike. It was a test, an opening move in a game of dominance. As the shuttle pierced the lower atmosphere, the city of Carvel came into view. Towering spires made of crystal and metal shimmered under a pale sun. The landing platform bristled with alien guards of varied species, each bearing the insignia of a council. Eric stepped out, his Terran Union uniform stark against a riot of colors and designs around him. "Captain Voss," a voice called. He turned to see Ellera approaching. She was tall and willowy, with skin that shifted hues like molten glass. Her eyes, twin pools of amber light, studied him with a mixture of caution and curiosity. As a mediator for Council, Ellera had navigated conflicts that could have shattered entire star systems. "Ellera," Eric greeted, his tone respectful but clipped. "I hear the Council is already divided." "Divided would be generous," she replied, her voice like a faint chime. "Some fear the Tsaric. Others fear you. Karin has been whispering that the Terrans will use Selker 3 as a pretext to reclaim their violent heritage." Eric's jaw tightened. "Heritage? We didn't start this. But if they force us, we'll finish it." Ellera's gaze lingered on him. "That is exactly what they fear and why they provoke you. Karin wants you to snap. He wants to show the galaxy that humans are as ruthless as the stories say." "Then he's underestimating me," Eric said. "I don't snap. I plan." The council chamber was an amphitheater of shadows and shifting lights. Delegates filled the tiers, each seated within an illuminated circle that signified their position and rank. The elders occupied the highest level, their forms shrouded in a faint silver mist. Karin was already there, his massive frame dominating the lower dais. His black armor glistened like obsidian, the jagged scars on his jawline catching the light. He stood tall, arms crossed, a predator basking in his own defiance. "Terran," he rumbled as Eric entered. "I wondered if you'd hide behind your fleets instead of facing me here." Eric walked to the center with unhurried precision. "I don't hide. I don't need to." Gasps and murmurs rippled through the chamber. Few spoke to Karin so bluntly, but Eric's voice carried the weight of a man who had nothing to prove. He placed the data slate on the central console and activated it. The grim footage of Selker 3's massacre filled the air once again, casting harsh light over the council. "This," Eric said, "is not a misunderstanding. It's murder. You let this happen, Karin. I'm here to make sure it doesn't happen again." The Tsaric warlord gave a sharp, derisive laugh. "You speak of murder as if your kind is clean hands. We all remember the Orion War. Billions dead, entire fleets wiped out by human ingenuity. Don't lecture me." Eric's voice remained cold but steady. "You're right. We remember it, too. That's why we're careful. We know what happens when we're pushed too far." The elders stirred uneasily, their voices whispering across the tiers. Elder Vayer finally spoke, their liquid form rippling as they address both men. The Council calls for restraint. The galaxy cannot endure another war of escalation. Captain Voss, can the Terran Union agree to a formal inquiry before retaliating? Eric glanced at Corinne, then back at the elders. We'll cooperate with your inquiry. But let me be clear. If the Tsarek strike again, diplomacy ends. I won't let them slaughter another colony. Karin's lip curled into something between a sneer and a grin. You posture well for such a short-lived species. Do you think your words scare me? Eric stepped closer, his voice dropping to a quiet, controlled tone. I don't want you scared, Karin. I want you smart enough to know when you're about to lose. After the session adjourned, Elora found Eric standing alone on a balcony overlooking the city. The fading light turned the spires below into rivers of fire and glass. You antagonize him too directly, she said softly. Karin is a warlord, not a statesman. He thrives on confrontation. Eric's hands rested on the railing, and if I bow to him, he'll see weakness. We both know what predators do when they smell weakness. Elora tilted her head, her gaze unreadable. There's a fine line between deterrence and provocation. Which side are you on? I'll do whatever it takes to keep Terran safe, Eric said, even if it means reminding the galaxy of what we're capable of. Elora's lips curved in something between a frown and a smile. You sound exactly like the legends they fear. Maybe they should. By the time Eric returned to the Art Horizon, night had settled over Carvel. The ship's corridors felt colder than usual. The hum of the engines a steady reminder of the tension that was building. Delane was waiting for him near the command deck. How did the Council take it? She asked. They're stalling as expected, Eric replied. Karin's not interested in peace. He's baiting us, and he's too arrogant to see what's coming if he keeps pushing. Delane's expression hardened. Orders from command? Eric shook his head. None yet, but we're not sitting still. Prepare a fleet-wide readiness check. If diplomacy fails, I want to be ready before anyone blinks. As he stepped onto the bridge, Eric cast one last look at the stars beyond the viewport. Somewhere out there, the Tsarek Dominion was preparing its next move. He could feel it. And if the galaxy wanted to test humanity again, they would learn, just as others had before, that humans didn't lose when survival was on the line. The Arc Horizon drifted just beyond Carvel's gravity well, a silent sentinel against the dark. Inside the command deck, every console hummed with quiet urgency. Captain Eric Voss stood at the center, arms folded behind his back, eyes locked on the tactical holomap that projected the positions of surrounding fleets. 2 Tsarek cruisers have moved closer to the neutral zone near Selker 3, reported Lieutenant Ray. They're broadcasting a civilian escort signal, but our scans show weapons charged. Of course they are, Eric muttered, his voice flat but edged with contempt. They think we're blind or worse, naive. Commander Delane leaned over the holomap, studying the shifting data. If they cross the treaty line, we have every right to engage. But command will demand restraint until the Council's inquiry ends. Eric's gaze sharpened. Command isn't sitting here watching the Tsarek parade their firepower like they own the stars. We won't fire unless they do, but I want every weapon calibrated. If they make a wrong move, they'll regret it. The call. An incoming transmission blinked on the primary screen. The emblem of the Tsarek Dominion rotated ominously before dissolving into Karin's snarling face. His scaled features were framed by the metallic crest of his armor, and his predatory grin revealed jagged, gleaming teeth. Captain Voss, Karin said, dragging out each syllable like a taunt. Still hiding behind your council's skirts? Or have you come to admit that humans are finished? Eric didn't move, his posture calm, almost disinterested. You talk too much, Karin. Maybe that's how you convince yourself you're winning. The warlord's eyes flashed. You mistake patience for weakness. The Dominion doesn't waste its strength on empty threats. We strike and our enemies vanish. Funny, Eric replied, leaning slightly toward the screen. That's what the Orion Empire said. You know what happened to them? Karin's grin faltered for just a heartbeat. Eric saw it, the crack in his confidence, and pressed the advantage. We're not here to scare you, Eric continued, voice low but sharp. But history's taught us a simple truth. The side that underestimates humans doesn't last long enough to make the same mistake twice. The warlord hissed, a sound like metal scraping stone. We'll see about that, Terran. Soon, you'll learn that fear is a game your kind no longer controls. The transmission cut abruptly. The skirmish. Captain, sensors are picking up weapons lock from the lead Sarek cruiser. Ray's voice broke the tense silence. Shields up, Eric ordered, his tone calm but cutting through the room like steel. Bring us to a defensive position. Full power to forward plating. No firing until I say. The hollow map flickered as the enemy ships shifted into an attack formation. 2 smaller frigates flanked the cruiser, their engines glowing hot as they accelerated toward Terran space. They're testing us, Delane said, fists clenched at her sides. We can't sit here and let them think we're afraid to respond. Eric's gaze stayed fixed on the incoming ships. I'm not afraid. I'm calculating. He turned to tactical. Target their weapons arrays. Non-lethal strike. Disable, don't destroy, unless they force our hand. Targeting locked. The weapons officer replied. Awaiting your command. The Sarek frigates fired first. Streams of ion energy streaked across the void, slamming against the Arc Horizon shields with a flash of electric light. Shields holding at 92%, Ray reported. Fire, Eric said. The Terran ship unleashed its response. 3 precision bursts of plasma that cut through the dark like surgical strikes. One frigate's weapons went dead immediately, its hull sparking as systems failed. The second ship veered off course, limping away with smoke trailing in the vacuum of space. The Sarek cruiser paused, as if stunned by the efficiency of the response. Message from the cruiser. Ray announced, they're demanding we stand down or face retaliation. Eric's lips curved into a cold, measured smile. Send them a reply. This was me showing restraint. Next time I won't. The conversation. Later, as the tension ebbed, Eric retreated to his private quarters. Ellora's hologram waited for him there, projected from a secure channel. Her amber eyes shimmered with a quiet intensity. You struck them, she said, voice calm but laced with unease. They fired first, Eric countered. I didn't destroy them. I simply reminded them we don't miss. Ellora tilted her head. The Council will see this as escalation. Karin will twist it into proof of Terran aggression. Let him, Eric said, his tone unflinching. He's looking for a reaction. What he doesn't realize is that he just gave me one. He blinked. He's not as untouchable as he wants everyone to believe. She studied him for a long moment. Your people fight like predators, not just with strength, but with calculation that frightens them. Eric's expression hardened. Good. They should be frightened if they think slaughtering civilians will go unanswered. I won't apologize for protecting my people. The warning. On the bridge, Eric drafted a final message addressed directly to Karin. His voice was recorded and transmitted without flourish, every word deliberate. You've tested us, and you've seen the result. Selker, 3 will not happen again. You have one chance to pull back, or the next shot we fire won't disable your ships. It will erase them. This is your first and only warning. The crew remained silent as the message was sent, each officer acutely aware of the line. They were walking between diplomacy and open war. As the night shift took over, Eric stayed alone on the observation deck. Stars stretched endlessly before him, their cold beauty marred by the knowledge of how easily they could become battlefields. He leaned against the railing, his reflection darkened in the glass. Karin wanted blood, but Eric wouldn't give it to him, at least not yet. The Sarek believed patience was weakness. They'd soon learn it wasn't. It was preparation. He turned, his mind already planning the next move. If war came, it would be on Eric's terms, not theirs. The warning message Eric sent rippled across the sector, but Karin did not retreat. If anything, the warlord's defiance hardened. Within days, Terran scouts reported fresh Sarek movements near neutral colonies. The Dominion wasn't testing boundaries anymore. It was tearing them apart. On the Arc Horizon's bridge, tension had become a constant undercurrent. The ship's crew moved with sharp efficiency, but every report brought the same truth closer. Diplomacy was crumbling. Confirmed, Lieutenant Ray said, voice taut. Karin's fleet hit a neutral supply convoy near the Ray Belt. Casualties, over 300. Eric's jaw tightened. He didn't shout. He never did. Instead, his silence cut through the room, heavier than any order. Finally, he spoke. Open a channel to command. The High Command hologram shimmered to life, projecting the faces of Terran admirals in a cold blue light. Admiral Vaylor, a man known for his rigid adherence to rules, appeared first. Captain Voss, Vaylor said, his voice clipped. You are to maintain position until the Council reaches a verdict. No retaliation. They're slaughtering people, Eric said evenly, neutral colonies, unarmed civilians. And you're asking me to wait? You will not ignite a war that spans a spiral, Vaylor replied. We cannot risk. War isn't coming, Eric interrupted, his voice low but firm. It's already here. I won't stand by while the Tsarek make examples of innocence. Vaylor's expression hardened, but he didn't counter. Finally, he said, Your orders stand. But, Captain, his tone dropped, grudgingly respectful. If the Tsarek strike again, you do what you must, and make it decisive. The holograms flickered out. Eric exhaled slowly. Permission by omission, he thought. That was all he needed. The trap, hours later. Intelligence confirmed a Tsarek fleet advancing toward Kavar 7, a trade station critical to both human and neutral worlds. Eric gathered his senior officers in the strategy room. They'll hit Kavar 7 within 8 hours, Delane said, pointing to the glowing map. The station won't survive a direct assault. They won't get the chance, Eric said. We'll intercept them here. He tapped a point near a narrow asteroid corridor. We use the rocks as cover and split their formation. They'll expect a head-on fight. We'll give them a knife to the throat instead. Delane frowned. It's risky. If we mistime it. We won't. Eric cut in. His voice was calm, but his gaze was unyielding. We're not here to win a glorious battle. We're here to end theirs before it begins. The battle. The arc horizon slid into the asteroid field, like a predator stalking its prey. The crew worked in silence, each movement rehearsed and precise. On the forward screen, the Tsarek fleet emerged. 2 heavy cruisers for frigates and a carrier. Hold fire, Eric ordered. Let them think we're just another obstacle. The Tsarek ships moved in tight formation, weapons glowing with energy. They hadn't spotted the horizon yet. Mark targets, Eric said. We'll take the carrier first. No carrier, no fighter swarm. The moment came. Fire. The Terran ship erupted in a flash of plasma and railgun bursts. The first volley tore through the carrier's shields before its crew could react. Explosions rippled across its hull, venting fire into space. Direct hits. Ray shouted. Carrier is crippled. The Tsarek formation broke, scattering into chaos. Fighters spilled from the damaged carrier, but their coordination faltered. Bring us around, Eric said. Target the lead cruiser's engines. Disable, don't destroy. The Horizon's guns roared again, each shot deliberate and devastating. A single rail slug pierced the cruiser's thruster array, sending it spinning helplessly. Karin's response. A new transmission blinked onto the screen. Karin's face filled the display, blood smeared across his jaw, his eyes burning with fury. You dare ambush my fleet? He snarled. You call this an ambush? Eric's voice was almost mocking. This is me being polite. You hit one more colony, and I won't leave enough of your fleet to bury. Karin's teeth bared in a vicious grin. You think you've won? This is nothing, Terran. Nothing. Then stop testing me, Eric replied, his voice like steel. Because next time, I won't aim for your ships. I'll aim for you. The transmission cut, but the threat lingered. The aftermath. The asteroid field was silent now, littered with the wreckage of Tsarek ships. The Horizon's crew moved quickly to secure the area, scanning for survivors and collecting data. Minimal damage on our end, Delane reported. Shields at 70%. No critical systems hit. We disabled 3 ships, destroyed 1 carrier. The rest retreated. Eric nodded. Send the footage to the Council. Let them see exactly what happens when we defend ourselves. Delane hesitated. You know they'll call this escalation. Good, Eric said. Let them. The council reacts. Back on Carvel, the council chamber erupted with voices as the footage played. Delegates argued, some calling for sanctions on the Tsarek, others demanding Terran restraint. Elder Vayer remained silent until the shouting subsided. Captain Voss, Vayer said, addressing him directly, you have demonstrated power, but power without control leads to ruin. Will you stand down now? Eric's answer was measured but unyielding. I'll stand down when Karin does. Until then, I'll defend every Terran life, every neutral world, with or without your approval. Karin, bruised and furious, slammed his fist on the table. You see? The humans crave war. They cannot help themselves. Eric turned his gaze to the warlord. No, Karin, we don't crave war, but we don't fear it either. And that's why you'll lose. Night on the horizon. As the day ended, Eric stood alone in the observation deck. Beyond the glass, stars burned like cold fire. He thought of Selker 3, the screams, the flames, and felt the familiar weight settle in his chest. This wasn't over. Karin would not stop, not after being humiliated. But Eric had sent a message, one the galaxy wouldn't forget. Humanity wouldn't bow, and it wouldn't break. He turned from the stars, his expression set. Prepare for what's next, he said quietly to himself. This was only the beginning. The council chamber was silent when Captain Eric Voss walked in. The tension was suffocating, a mix of fear, anger, and grudging respect that clung to every delegate present. The footage of the Ark Horizon's decisive strike against Karin's fleet had already been reviewed, dissected, and whispered about in the dim corridors of Carvel. Now, all eyes were on the man who had defied the odds and the council itself. Karin stood at the far side of the table, his black armor dented and scarred from the recent battle. His glare was nothing short of venomous, but Eric didn't flinch. He walked to the center of the chamber with deliberate calm, boots echoing against the polished floor. Elder Vayer's voice, smooth and metallic, filled the hall. Captain Voss, your actions have altered the course of these proceedings. The council demands an explanation for the severity of your response. Eric's gaze swept across the gathered aliens, his voice steady and unwavering. Selker 3 was burned. Neutral convoys were slaughtered. How many warnings do you need before you call this what it is? The Tsarek Dominion started a war. I stopped it from spreading. Karin slammed his clawed hand onto the table. You dare call this restraint? You cripple my fleet. You humiliated me before the galaxy. Eric's tone sharpened, cutting through the air. You humiliated yourself. You want to provoke us, to prove we're nothing but predators wrapped in old myths. But now you've seen the truth. We don't seek conflict, but we'll end it if we must. Cleanly, efficiently, without hesitation. The chamber murmured, voices rising in conflicting tones of approval and outrage. Elder Vayer raised a hand, silencing them all. Warlord Karin, your attacks on neutral colonies violate the Council's charter. Do you deny it? Karin's jaw tightened, his pride warring with reason. The Dominion claims what is ours. We owe no explanations to. That's enough, Eric said, his voice low but carrying a weight that cut through the hall. He stepped closer to the warlord, close enough for the light to catch the faint scars on his face. Every empire that tried to break us is gone. You've read our history, haven't you? We don't bend. We don't run. You pushed, and we push back harder. Keep going, and you'll see just how far we're willing to go. Karin's nostrils flared, but for the first time, he didn't answer. The silence spoke louder than any words. Behind closed doors. Later, in a smaller chamber reserved for private negotiations, Eric faced the Council's senior delegates. Ellora stood beside him, her amber eyes bright but guarded. You cannot keep making enemies, Captain, Elder Vayer said. Your strength is undeniable, but fear is a dangerous currency. It may buy compliance, but never trust. I'm not asking for trust, Eric replied. I'm asking for accountability. If the Council won't stop the Dominion, humanity will. We won't wait for another Selker 3. Ellora's voice broke the tension. What Eric is saying is simple. Peace means nothing if predators are allowed to roam unchecked. The Tsarek must be held responsible, or the Terrans will do it alone. Vair's silver form rippled, a sign of discomfort. And if the Dominion retaliates, then they'll learn, Eric said, his voice like steel. We don't start wars, but we end them. The turning point. The next day, Karin faced the Council under a new reality. 3 of his cruisers were still disabled and in Terran custody. The footage of his attacks had been shared across multiple systems, rallying smaller factions against his campaign of terror. His pride had become his liability. You will withdraw your fleets, Elder Vair decreed, and sign the ceasefire agreement, or face united sanctions from every member species. Karin's face twisted with rage. You think I fear your sanctions? You think I fear them? He pointed a clawed finger at Eric. It's him I fear. His kind. Their endless resolve. The words slipped out before he could stop them. The chamber stilled. Eric stepped forward, his voice calm, but carrying an edge of finality. You should fear us if you leave us no choice. Because when humans fight, we fight to win. There's no halfway, no retreat. The Orion Empire thought we were fragile. They don't exist anymore. Do you want the same fate? Karin's eyes met Eric's, and for the first time, the warlord looked away. We will consider your terms, he muttered. The speech. When the ceasefire was formally announced, Eric stood before the council to deliver his final statement. We came here to protect, not to conquer. But humanity will never allow itself to be treated as prey. We value life, ours and yours. We respect peace, but peace is not the absence of power. It's the presence of restraint. We have both. Don't mistake either for weakness. The chamber was silent. Even Karin, sitting with arms crossed, didn't speak. Epilogue. That night, on the Ark horizon, the crew celebrated their survival with quiet pride. Eric, however, stood alone on the observation deck. Ellora approached, her reflection joining us against the stars. You've won, she said softly. The Dominion will pull back. The Council will remember this day. Eric's gaze stayed fixed on the endless black. Winning isn't enough. They'll forget. Sooner or later, someone always does. Then you'll remind them, Ellora said, a hint of admiration in her voice. He turned to her, his expression calm but resolute. I hope I never have to. But if I do, they'll learn the same lesson Karin did. She tilted her head. And what lesson is that? That we're not the galaxy's predators, Eric said, looking back at the stars. We're its survivors. And nothing fights harder than something that refuses to die. The stars shimmered like a field of distant fires, indifferent to the struggles beneath them. But for now, the galaxy was quiet.